Welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right into a wild corporate drama today. We've got three very different friends trying to crack the Indian market, and we're going to use their journey to completely break down Chapter 11 of the Companies Act 2013. You know, the rules for companies incorporated outside India? I promise you, corporate law is actually about to get pretty cinematic. So let's get into it.
So picture this. Our three ambitious protagonists all have their eyes locked on the massive, incredibly lucrative Indian consumer market. They want to bring their businesses across the border, right? But before they can make a single move, they have to figure out the legal threshold. They need to know exactly how Indian law is going to view them. Do they just walk right in? Or is there a specific legal gate they have to pass through?
First things first, they've got to check if they actually fit the definition of a foreign company under Section 242. Now listen, the absolute most crucial word in this definition is "and." To be a foreign company, you must be a body corporate incorporated outside India that has a place of business in India, whether physical or electronic, and you have to actually conduct business activity there. You need the presence, and you need the action. Have a place but no activity, or activity but no place. The law is going to look at you very differently.
All right, let's officially meet our trio. First up, we've got Baijan Co., a charismatic setup looking for overwhelming domestic love. Next is John Wick. He's the flawless, by-the-book professional who treats compliance like it's life or death. And finally, Spider-Man, the sneaky rule breaker. Now, if you remember our previous chapters, Spider-Man is fresh out of a 2-year jail stint for non-payment of dividend, and man, is he desperate for a comeback.
Let's see how this plays out, starting with Baijan Co. They set up shop and immediately receive just overwhelming love from Indian consumers. It's crazy. Almost overnight, a staggering 90% of its paid-up share capital gets scooped up by Indian citizens and companies. It is a massive success story. But, as we know in the corporate world, massive success triggers massive regulatory shifts.
Because of this huge domestic buy-in, Section 379 enters the chat. Here's the deal. Under Section 379(2), if not less than 50% of the paid-up share capital of a foreign company is held by Indian citizens or companies, a total transformation happens. Since 90% of Baijan Co.'s shares are now held by Indians, the company practically transforms in the eyes of the law. For its Indian business, it has to comply with Chapter 22 rules exactly as if it were incorporated right here in India. Baijan Co. is officially in the domestic leagues.
Meanwhile, the intensely professional John Wick, he's taking a totally different route. No selling majority shares to locals for him. He operates as a pure foreign company and executes Section 380 with absolute precision. Under 380, you have exactly 30 days from setting up your place of business to deliver all required registration documents to the ROC. And quick note, for foreign companies, the ROC is always in New Delhi. Naturally, John hits his strict 30-day deadline without breaking a single sweat.
But John doesn't just stop there. For him, compliance is a continuous, ongoing mission. He flawlessly ticks off step-by-step procedural rules. He tackles Section 382 by conspicuously displaying his company name and liability status outside every single office in English and the local language. He hits Section 381, preparing his balance sheet and P&L every single calendar year. And he perfectly maintains his books of account and annual returns under Section 384. Honestly, this is a masterclass in how you conquer a market safely.
Now, cut back to headquarters, where Baijan is sitting down with Spider-Man. Baijan is completely overwhelmed by the paperwork of becoming deeply integrated into the Indian system. He pulls out this incredibly heavy, dense blueprint of documentation required by Sections 380 and 381. They're just sitting there, staring at endless forms, translations, and certifications, trying to wrap their heads around the sheer volume of compliance needed to establish a footprint.
Baijan briefly walks Spider-Man through exactly what's needed. You've got to have certified charter documents, like the MOA and AOA, translated into English. You need the full address of the principal office, a detailed list of all directors and the secretary, and critically, the name and address of an authorized representative residing in India who can accept notices for the company. After taking one look at this massive list, they both decide it's just way easier to copy their genius friend John Wick's homework to get their initial registrations sorted out.
Well, copying homework is one thing, but actual execution is a whole other beast. Ispardaman, despite literally just getting out of a 2-year stint behind bars, gets incredibly cocky. He looks at the massive scale of the Indian market and actually thinks to himself, you know what? Indian laws might be easy to bypass this time. No one's going to notice me. Driven by greed and this completely false sense of invisibility, he recklessly decides to offer securities to the Indian public to raise capital. And he does it without giving the compliance manual even a passing glance.
Okay, so what exactly did he skip? Well, if Spider-Man wasn't trying to cut corners, he'd know Chapter 11 has strict rules for issuing shares. This is where Sections 387, 388, and 389 step in. Under 387, your prospectus has to contain specific particulars about the company's constitution. Under 388, if you include an expert statement, you absolutely must have their written consent. And under 389, you cannot circulate that prospectus until a certified copy is delivered for registration to the ROC. Spider-Man skimmed this and just tossed it straight out the window.
And Section 389 isn't just about handing over a basic piece of paper. It requires highly specific, detailed annexers. You have to attach copies of material contracts, the expert's consent, underwriting agreements, the whole shebang. It's a strict protective measure designed specifically to shield the Indian public from fraud. But as Spider-Man, he completely ignored all of it, thinking he was somehow too clever to get caught by the regulators.
Come on. The regulators are always watching. So naturally, Spider-Man issues the shares with zero compliance and gets caught in 4K quality. His arrogance triggers the devastating penalties of Section 392, and the financial blow here is massive. The foreign company itself is slapped with a fine of 1 lakh to 3 lakh rupees, plus a really painful 50,000 rupees per day for a continuing default. And the officer in default, which is Spider-Man himself, faces personal fines ranging from 25,000 all the way up to 5 lakh rupees.
And this brings us to the tragic downfall of Spider-Man's empire. He really thought he could outsmart the system again, but instead, he's looking at severe financial ruin and, yep, another arrest. But here's the thing. While those financial penalties under Section 392 are absolutely brutal, it's the cold reality of Section 393 that puts the final nail in the coffin of his corporate dreams. Under Section 393, the ultimate sad story unfolds. Because he completely failed to comply with Chapter 11, Spider-Man's company is entirely stripped of its right to sue or enforce any of its contracts. I mean, let that sink in for a second. The company is completely defenseless. Other people can still sue his company, and his contracts are technically valid, but if someone breaches a contract with him, he is legally barred from bringing any suit, claiming any set-off, or starting any legal proceeding until he fully complies with the act. It is total, absolute corporate paralysis.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we've just watched 3 very different journeys into the Indian market. We saw the overwhelming domestic integration of Baijan Co., the flawless, by-the-book execution of John Wick, and the tragic, completely defenseless end of the shortcut-taking Spider-Man. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When you're stepping into a new market, which friend's business model are you going to adopt for your own corporate journey? Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.